All right, today we are diving into a topic that, honestly, underpins just about everything in our technological future. And I'm talking about copper. But look, this isn't just about a simple price swing. We are staring down the barrel of what could be a multi-decade copper shock, something that could totally redefine everything from AI to the green energy transition. Yeah, just let that one sink in for a second. That's a quote from mining billionaire Robert Friedland, a huge player in the resource world. And it just perfectly captures the mind-boggling scale of what we're facing. This isn't about a little bump in demand. It's a whole new reality. So what on earth is driving this incredible, this insatiable need for copper? Well, it's basically a perfect storm of tech revolutions, and they're all happening at the exact same time. Let's start by looking at the demand side of this whole equation. Think about it. You've got these four massive pillars holding up our future, and all of them are unbelievably hungry for copper. AI data centers, they need tons of it for power and for cooling. Electric vehicles, they use way more copper than a regular car. And the entire green energy revolution, wind turbine solar panels and the massive grids to support it all, none of it works without copper. And just to zoom in on one of these for a moment, let's just talk about AI. The demand for copper from AI data centers alone is projected to explode by 127% by the year 2040. I mean, think about that. We're talking about more than doubling the demand from just one piece of our tech future. It's massive. And you have to understand, this is not just happening in one part of the world. This is a truly global phenomenon. Asia is expected to be responsible for a staggering 60% of all new demand growth by 2040. And that's mostly being driven by their huge push into electric vehicles and the incredible build-out of their power grids. So when you add all of this up, what do you get? Well, the total global demand for copper is forecast to jump from 28 million tons in 2025 to an incredible 42 million tons by 2040. That's a 50% increase in just 15 years. The world is getting electrified, folks, and copper is the wire that makes it all happen. Okay, so demand is going through the roof. The obvious question then is, can't we just mine more of it? Well, this is where the other half of the story gets really, really interesting, because the supply side is facing its own gigantic set of problems, everything from geology to geopolitics. And this right here is a tipping point. The forecast shows 2026 as the very last year we expect to have a copper surplus, where production is actually higher than consumption. But then, starting in 2027, the world is projected to flip into a structural deficit. And that just means a long-term ongoing shortfall where we're consistently using more copper than we can possibly produce. And that gap, it's only going to get wider as we head into the 2030s. And to make matters worse, our safety cushion is basically disappearing. You know those stockpiles of copper that are held at major exchanges? They act as a buffer, a protection against any supply shocks. Well, they're already getting seriously thin. We're running out of our backup supply right when demand is set to explode. So let's put the two pieces of the puzzle together. When you take that soaring, unstoppable demand and you smash it up against a struggling, stagnating supply, well, you get the fundamental recipe for the copper shock we're talking about. It really does just boil down to this simple, powerful equation. The source material basically calls it first-grade math. When demand is set to structurally overwhelm supply, something's gotta give. And those mining challenges, they're no joke. We're talking about it taking a decade or more to find and get a permit for a new mine, the quality of the ore is declining, and there's all sorts of political instability in the countries that produce this stuff. You can see it right here. The market is projected to literally flip, going from that little bit of surplus we have left in 2026 into a growing deficit from 2027 onward. You can actually see the moment the world starts needing more copper than it can find, and that problem, it just gets worse and worse over time. And the size of this deficit, it's just immense. The forecast suggests we could have an annual shortfall of 10 million tons by 2040. Now, to put that number into perspective, that's roughly 1/3 of today's entire global demand. That is a massive, massive hole to fill. So you see this incredibly clear long-term picture, and you have to ask, what does this mean if you're looking at it from an investment point of view? The source material lays out a pretty specific way to think about this, and it really highlights a crucial truth about how markets actually behave. And that's the million-dollar question, right? If the fundamentals are screaming that this is the direction things are headed, should we just expect the price to march straight up, no bumps in the road? And the answer, of course, is a hard no. The source material is crystal clear on this point. No asset ever moves in a perfect straight line. Volatility is just part of the game. Things like fears of a global recession can pop up and hit demand for a while, causing prices to dip. But these corrections aren't seen as a bad thing. They're actually healthy resets, and they're essential for a sustainable long-term trend. So this all leads to a really disciplined, strategic way to think about it. Step 1, you identify that powerful macro trend, in this case, the structural copper deficit. But then, and this is the key part, instead of just chasing the price higher, you anticipate that those corrections are going to happen. And then that volatility can actually be used as a potential opportunity to get in on that long-term trend, but at a better price. But let's zoom out for a second. Beyond the charts, beyond the trading strategies, what this really means for the world is, well, it's profound. This isn't just a game for investors. The coming copper shock has real implications for every single one of us. Because at the end of the day, copper isn't just another commodity on a spreadsheet. It's the circulatory system of the entire 21st century economy. It is the literal wiring that connects our dreams of AI, our goals for green energy, and our entire, increasingly electric world. It's the silent hero that makes progress possible. And that leaves us with one final and really critical question. If copper truly is the essential backbone of our technological future, what happens when that backbone becomes strained, scarce, and maybe even a little bit brittle? It's a question that could end up determining not just the price of a metal, but the actual speed of human progress itself.